Yo, what's up, everyone? This is episode 140 of the Blrd podcast. As always, we have Green Tuner.
Hello.
Dark Side. Oh, wait, hold on. Creamcast.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Dark Side.
Whoa.
Ooh. And myself, the one, the only, the original, the best in the world, Bay, the Ed Underground.
Boo.
How you guys doing? Also, the main character. I have many names. But how you guys doing?
You're a special guest at this point.
Yeah, you are a special appearance.
Yeah, like, but not in the good special. It's not like it's like, hey, you know, guys, like we got this really special guest. It's like, no, the special as in like they have foundations for you.
As in, it's a very special episode that he's here.
Yes.
Hold on. It's like the heavens opened up.
What's the old show with Gary Coleman?
What's hip? No. What's hip?
I'm not that old.
Different strokes.
It's a special appearance, as in the guy that was molesting Gary Coleman in Different Strokes of the Bike Store. That's the kind of guest appearance that Ed brings into this.
Gary Coleman didn't get molested. His friend got molested at the bike shop.
Nevertheless, Ed is the bike owner of basically equivalency to this.
Yes.
I am Goku in Dragon Ball Z, and then when Goku somehow has to go off in a distance to train or whatever, then you see Krillin and Yamcha and
pedal bike
on a side mission.
100%.
Whatever they got to do, and then when they get all beat up, Goku makes a grand appearance.
Yeah, but do you go train in the isolation chamber with a young boy for years and years?
First of all, fake fan is not called the isolation chamber. It's called the hyperbolic time chamber.
Okay, isn't that what Epstein had on his island?
What?
Like, isn't that
what?
Yeah, isn't that what they had? Like,
I know he was a fan of Assassin's Creed's Origins, though, because he had that pretty sweet fucking pyramid in his island. I wanted to climb on that bitch and do the thing where you
had a pyramid on an island
with the hawk.
Are we talking about the same thing?
Obviously not.
I was talking about Dragon Ball Z, and then you all went off into baby oil territory.
Well, talking about
it was a funky island, though.
Yeah, well, talking about funky islands and
baby oil
and
problematic individuals.
Very problematic individuals. Let's jump into our main topic for today. So our main topic of reviewing just came out, and it's one of the hottest shows right now. Shows/documentaries on Netflix is the McMahon. The man, the myth, and legend himself, Vince McMahon, has a documentary of his life as from a young child to recent scandals. So that's 30. Yeah, well, the bigger scandals. Yeah, bigger scandals.
Bigger scandals?
Yeah, they're probably the biggest scandals. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's jump on that. Like I said, it debuted on Netflix last week, or I think last week.
Yeah, last week
is in the top 3 of most viewed shows this week, which is no surprise. Documentaries usually do very well on Netflix. It's funny. Netflix has become more of a documentary streaming service as of late, as opposed to
It's always kind of been it.
When I say
more, as of late, it's been worse. Yeah, I'm saying as of in the past few years, instead of the streaming service back in 2006, or not streaming service, but the DVD rental service to the streaming service, and now it's almost like a documentary haven.
I would say, when making a murderer hit and the phenomenon around that,
making a murderer
2-3 years ago,
yes,
that when that hit, that I think Netflix made a decision, and then Tiger King was the next big one that came after that. So
Tiger King also benefited from the lockdowns.
It really is.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, the thing
is,
sure. With Netflix, I think Netflix also sees the formula that has gone on with reality shows, and people are really interested in real life things. They don't people. I mean, of course, the fictional shows will always do well, but I think Netflix is really starting to see. Well, not even starting. I think Netflix has grabbed that audience of like reality shows, and because they have like Love Island and all these different like little dating reality shows, the mockumentaries, the documentaries, and so forth. They're really, really leaning onto that right now. And while still producing, shows on the side, Netflix originals. But Netflix, there just seems like right now they're picking out the things that they really are. They're not really like making things like original stuff. They're really just leaning into like existing stories and so forth, which, hey, it's a good move.
I'm reading the chat. Only Till says
talking
more Reno 911, and I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, Reno 911. That was a weird time for comedy, and they just knew how to do it just right. Reno 911 was really good.
Yeah,
because it was crazy because people, I think, wasn't there with Reno 911, there was one of their episodes, one of their skits, people actually thought it was real. They did a skit, I can't remember. I felt like this was like maybe 15, 20 years ago. I forgot how long ago it was. But there was a skit that they did on there, and there's people on the internet who really thought wherever the skit was, it really happened. And there was outrage.
Because that's how the show was. The show was filmed in documentary style.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where basically the camera wasn't even like The Office, where it's like super like crisp, and even though they make it seem like it's documentary,
it had like a shaky,
very well edited. Fucking Reno 101, literally, it looked like someone had just grabbed a camcorder and started filming just with really good audio, right? And yeah, if you show it to someone that has no context and you say like, man, look at what happened, people will actually believe it because it looks like police footage from
it looks like Cops. It looks like almost like a Cops, like a better, well shot version of Cops. So yeah,
except they're in like booty shorts and like dangles and booty shorts and like they're.
No, that was just the cheap though.
The thing is,
that was just the one guy.
But you gotta remember, like, they say like intelligence is on a scale, right? So intelligence, you have average people. Most people are within the average, average or higher intelligence. You gotta forget that there are also the other half as well. So there are people who exhibit lesser than favorable results
right
for the IQ.
The Scion drivers of the world.
Scions, if you buy a Scion, you were probably one of those folks.
Yeah,
you're one of those people. Yeah,
all these smart people drive Scions would go on.
Well, let's not lose track of
the topic.
Why we're here,
Mr. McMahon.
So yeah,
main character, baby, main character. Go on.
So I mean, I assume we all watched it. This was actually a very, very, very entertaining documentary.
Riveting, right? Absolutely riveting.
Really? It was funny because coming as I remember as a kid watching wrestling during the Attitude Era and so forth, and at points when I was like 10, 12, believing to an extent that this was real, right? It was probably around 11 I realized that it wasn't real anymore. But the thing is that like I remember seeing Vince McMahon as Mr. McMahon, and really actually hating him in real life. I was like, this guy is a complete douchebag. I hate him. He's the worst. And it made me realize like everything they were talking about, like the demographics and him acting and him trying to draw in more viewers. And, they knew it was fake. They weren't trying to hide that it was fake. They were just trying to still sell a really good plot line. I had to agree. I mean, it worked for me when I was a kid. I mean, these plot lines, to me, they felt real as a kid. And even certain aspects when they were talking about in the documentary that there was the good guys and the bad guys, and they were taking it as far. I forgot what was the code word they said, but the code word was
baby face and heels.
No,
kayfabe was for the
kayfabe. Kayfabe, yeah.
Kayfabe, yeah. To pretty much say like, hey, it's game time. Like you need to be in character. I felt that because I felt like every time I saw those characters, regardless if they were the ring or not, they were legitimately those characters. And at certain points in my mind, I'm thinking like I didn't think of like the Undertaker being an actual human being. Dude. Yeah, he's the Undertaker. That's all he is. Vince McMahon, he's playing this character who we'll find out. Even Vince McMahon say he couldn't tell whether is he playing the character or is the character playing him. But I truly believed in these characters. It was just amazing. It was a really well shot.
I love that shit, by the way. That ambiguity of Mr. McMahon. I love how he could not narrow down who was the character and who he was.
Yes.
And I like how they asked other people like who've been revolving around him, like literally his family, literally his lifelong people who've been with him. They also like there's a line so blurred that even they can't distinguish between the two. But the man himself, maybe he can. I mean, like I said, there's a lot in this. There's a lot in this.
He's not even sure.
There's a lot in this documentary that, like, I know. Okay, so this comes out at a specific time in history where, like, there's a lot being talked about, right, about him, and obviously the end of this was all shot before a lot of that news came out, right? Like
years before. It started years before.
Years before, and it really you can tell because there's no way The Rock would be involved in this at this point. There's no way that John Cena would be involved in this at this point. If they started it at this point, they would probably not want to talk about this right now.
Right.
But the fact that they are here, and obviously they probably approached some of these people after the news broke to be like, "Hey, you want to follow up on the?" They're like, "Nope, I'm good." And especially afterwards, I found out that Vince McMahon tried to purchase the documentary before it was released.
I can believe it.
Yep, and so he went to great lengths to stop it from being shown, and he also made a statement the night of its release, I believe, or the night before its release, clearly stating that, hey, this is not a representation of me, and I thought they were the typical thing that comes out when a documentary is made about someone and they're involved in it, and it steers in a direction they don't want.
He used precise words too. I forgot what he said. Not propaganda, something.
No,
it's something that he said they're doing, which he's been doing for years.
Yeah, and like,
he said that about. Well, he was saying that specifically with killing the competition. That he's hypocritical because he says that Ted Turner, he felt some type of way that Ted Turner was using, him being a billionaire, was using his money to pretty much crush the competition, and they were like, well. Didn't you said earlier, and they caught him in that, and they replayed it, or they played it just before. They were like, "Didn't you just say that you would do the same thing, or you did the same thing?" And he was like,
he did the same thing. Yeah, he WWF was acquiring other territories. He was literally doing what Ted Turner was doing to him.
Yeah, he said he did that, and it was just like he realized he was a hypocrite. And then there's other things that later on in probably episode 6 of the documentary, he kind of incriminated himself to an extent, because obviously this was before the more serious allegations came out, or the most serious allegations of him came out, and that's when he exited out of the documentary and said he's done shooting. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Darkside. You were saying.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think my take on this is gonna be very different from your guys' take. Or possibly, I don't know, because the thing is, you guys watch a lot of wrestling. You watched it more when it was on. You were like, these storylines and these characters are familiar to you. They're not that familiar to me. I mean, the people are familiar to me, but like the storylines are not. The eras are not. Like all these things. Like the documentary is very good. So I think the documentary, for anyone who's interested in watching it, is not a great representation of the crimes that were committed. It talks about them, it addresses them, but this is more about a man and his life achievement of the WWE and how he built that. And the stuff I wanted to hear about, maybe this documentary came out too soon and there's not enough time passing. They were able to shed light on certain things, but this documentary, and I have a feeling it's going to get a 7th part, maybe in a couple years when some news settles, hopefully. But I think that this was conceived more from a perspective, like you could tell with all the people involved, the stars involved in this, that this was conceived as a retrospective of Vince McMahon's career and how he built this big empire and how many people were involved in that. And it is big. You cannot argue that what he achieved was massive. What I'm saying is basically my perspective is going to be different because this documentary is my first time I'm noticing certain things that you guys probably were aware of the whole time for many years. Like, for example, I thought I watched the Attitude Era. Now watching this documentary, I don't think I watched anything in the Attitude Era. I watched everything that was around when it was a little more, I guess, innocent with Hogan and Andre the Giant and Macho Man and like back in those days.
Golden Age?
Yeah, the golden
I guess
age.
you want to call it the Golden Age. But what I thought was the Attitude Era. What they clearly described
even
here.
Even the Golden Age had like fucking. That's the thing, though.
I think it was implied in the Golden Age, but they never came out and did it. In the Attitude Era, they did it. They like talked about it. They showed it. There was like in the Golden Age, I guess you would call it, when somebody was on cocaine, you'd be like, all right, dude's on cocaine here. You know, he's snapping into a Slim Jim. But like I don't think he would bust open a pack of cocaine and snort it. But in like the Attitude Era, it's like they were one step away from the cocaine pack.
Well, I see what you're talking about. So like the Golden Era, back when Hogan, Andre the Giant, those characters.
I have memories of watching that. Yeah, I have memories.
Yeah, but you also had people like fucking Bruiser Brody that had a dog chain and would cut people open.
You had
and you can find, you know, and you had got him like stabbed to death in Puerto Rico during that time. So that's what I'm saying. It's true,
but but what they showed in the Attitude Era and this retrospective was they were pushing the boundaries of what was allowed on television.
They were
like from a sex point of view, which I mean, I'm not knocking anything down. Sex sells, you know what I mean? I'm just saying when I was a kid, unless I blocked it out, it was a little different.
Well, honestly, I didn't notice really any of that in the Golden Era. It wasn't up until the Attitude Era. That's when I started seeing things. But there is a major shift. Like, no one in the Golden Era told anyone to like suck it, or no one like flash boobs and stuff like that. That wasn't up until the Attitude Era. And what you're saying about that this documentary, well, it felt like it was meant to be like a retrospective or a to make Vince look good. That was the original intent.
Yeah,
it wasn't up until because that was the original intent, but then all this stuff started happening, and it was like in the tail end of doing this documentary. But even then, he had some stuff that he did that was pretty controversial.
I mean, they asked some of those questions, right?
Yeah.
To Vince, like in the beginning.
Listen, one thing that I just so a lot of this stuff like I knew just because I'm a big fan of like old school wrestling. I know a lot of like the history and everything. I'm sure I know Ed does as well. Cause we had these conversations, off pod and everything. You know, we love reminiscing about wrestling. One thing that I have to say, number one, is just from pure experience, and once you take a deep dive into it, you'll see it. 95% of everything you hear coming out of Vince or WWE's mouth is a fabrication, and that is no lie. I'm dead serious. Same thing. You can't trust what Hulk Hogan says. You can't trust what any of these guys say.
Not even Triple H,
because that's the name of the business. It's not wrestling the sport, but pro wrestling the show came from the circus. Its roots are grounded on circus performance and everything. That's why they call them marks. That's why they say kayfabe. That's why they say shoot. That's why they say you don't sell. You know, these are things that carnies use to communicate. So a lot of the shit that Vince said in this was just outright lies, right? There would be no Attitude Era if there was no ECW, and they didn't give it a single second of like acknowledgement. Vince took all the credit. The only reason why Stone Cold exists was because Stone Cold before that was called like the Golden. What's the Golden something?
He was in ECW, and I think WCW also.
No, before ECW.
The Golden.
He was in WWE. He had a character called like the Golden something. He sucked. They kicked him out. He went to ECW. ECW gave him that hard edge and started forming him into the Stone Cold character we know today.
Yes.
Now, Stone Cold in ECW was not unique. There were tons of similarly interesting characters. But when Vince saw what they turned him into, what Paul Heyman turned him into, he pulled him into WWE. And then, Stone Cold, if there was no Stone Cold, there would be no WWE right now.
Yeah.
They don't want to say it in the documentary, but even to this day, most of their merch, a majority of their merch that still sells is Stone Cold. And Stone Cold's been retired for God knows how long.
2 decades.
Exactly. So whatever you hear Vince saying, really do take it with a grain of salt. Same thing where he's like, oh, we've been together for so many years with Linda, blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
They haven't lived together or been seen together for 20 years. They live in opposite sides of the country. The only time they're seen together are for photo shoots.
Yeah,
or, like, oh yeah, we had to mortgage our house, blah 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 blah. His dad gave him a sweetheart deal. He sold him the WWE for the cheapest price possible. But the reason why he said is like,
but you're not saying anything.
The payments. No, but remember he's like, we had to mortgage the house.
But that was for WrestleMania.
We were about to lose it all and everything.
But see, I think you're misconstruing.
No.
Parts that he's saying.
Same thing with.
He said that for WrestleMania. He said when the initial deposits and getting everything up to run for WrestleMania. He said since this was a new thing, they had put so much money into it that they had to mortgage the house. Now that is fair. That might not be true, but I think you're conflating. But I'm saying you're conflating two different parts. No,
but that's what I'm saying. So same thing as how he said that he purchased it and that he couldn't miss a single payment because they were going to take it away. His dad gave him a sweetheart deal. And the only reason he put that stipulation was because like, hey, look, just pay me these like really low payments or whatever. You pay that off. If you're not interested, that's fine. I can just sell it. It's all good. Vince Sr. was dying of cancer. He wanted to pass his legacy onto Vince Jr., right? So that's why he gave him this sweetheart deal. WrestleMania, yes, obviously, it was a lot at stake and everything. But before WrestleMania, there were like 5 different like pay-per-view shows. They already had practice by the time they got to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
WrestleMania was the accumulation of like 4 or 5 failures before that. Yep. So that's why when they got to WrestleMania 1, it was so tight and so well done because he had failed so many times before. He won't tell you that because in Vince's world, like he said, if I'm living, I win. There's no losing for Vince. So that's what I'm saying. Take everything that you hear in this documentary from Vince's mouth or anyone in the WWE with a gigantic grain of salt.
I mean, that's true, but isn't that the illusion, and that's why he's that good?
No, I will not dispute the fact that no. Modern wrestling today, whether you like it or not, this gigantic company that's competing against the NFL and everything only exists because of Vince.
Yeah.
If that monster of a man was not in charge of the WWE, it would not be as successful as it is. The Rock would not have a movie career. All these people would not be where they're at if it wasn't for Vince. I had to give it to him. It's true. Without Vince, there's no modern wrestling. Whether you like the modern wrestling or you hate it.
I would even say
Vince did shape wrestling in the United States, maybe even the world. I don't know.
Not the world. I would say the world.
I feel like you're. I feel like you're. What you're saying is kind of a mischaracterization of what happened in the documentary, and I think I think that
the thing is, you guys are seeing it through like rose-colored glasses. Yeah, I've seen this story. I've heard everything.
No. I'm not saying.
There are other documentaries. There are other documentaries better. I would say better than this.
No, this was a damn good documentary. I'll give it.
It was good, but there's other ones that are more.
I've seen other documentaries, and this is probably the best one. But the thing is that I'm not wearing rose-colored tinted glasses or anything like that. I think that you're leaning on details, like specific things. Like they didn't put a huge emphasis on Linda, right? She was only really brought up during WrestleMania about the fact they had to mortgage their houses, and we were talking about with Stephanie McMahon.
Linda was a lawyer when they got married. She had.
Yeah, she was good. Linda was good. She comes from a good family and everything else. They really didn't bring up Linda too much until they started talking about the Trish Stratus stuff and the Attitude Era, and them trying to it was Sable and trying to get back trying to rebound from WCW and NWO's pretty much attack on the WWF at the time. So I think you might be coming from with more information and you're trying to put the pieces together. I don't think that they're necessarily hiding or they're trying to give it a flowery representation of it.
No, they are. They are. They very are.
Not the documentary, mind you. Not the documentary. I'm talking strictly about the WWE.
Well, yeah, I mean,
no.
There's more stuff. There's more stuff. Yeah, I'm saying there's more stuff.
The documentary is honest
that we'll never know about. Right? They're not going to. Of course, a lot of people are not going to shit on everything that actually happened. They're going to talk about the things because this was mostly meant for initially the legacy of Vince McMahon. This was talking about pretty much the trial and tribulations of his childhood up until before the scandals had came out, the most recent scandals, pretty much everything up until 2002 or 2022. I'm sorry. So, but what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, I think they did a great representation of what. Now, was this some media training? Obviously, because these guys they've been in front of the media, they know the stories, and they're not going to tell you everything that goes on. Like that's just the truth of working in any workplace, right?
I think you misunderstood me then. I never said the documentary was dishonest. I think they're very honest on what they did. I'm saying whatever Vince is saying and whatever the WWE representatives are saying.
That's why I'm disagreeing with. That's why I'm disagreeing with.
Really?
I'm disagreeing with what I think outside of them using a little discernment on what things to say and not say. I think this was probably a lot of stuff that happened was very true. When Bret Hart was talking, I don't think he was sitting there acting.
No, not Bret Hart. It's about Vince.
You're speaking of like the odd man out.
He's the odd man out.
What I'm saying, the most notorious liar in all of wrestling history.
To be fair, I think this documentary, by letting Vince McMahon speak in the way that he spoke, I think that it makes it very clear to Green Tuner's point and to Creamcast's point. It makes it very clear he was able to speak, and this was a representation of him. But the representation you got of him was that he is a dishonest man. He is all the things you're describing were true, and this was a great portrayal of that from his mouth. You watched it literally come from his mouth, and I don't think there can be a better documentary. This is him in a nutshell.
Well,
and that's what I'm saying. He's dishonest.
No, this is a bite.
That is the takeaway I got from it, is that this man built an illusion and he is dishonest.
Yes.
But what an illusion, and what a life that this guy lived.
It's a dishonest, it's a dishonest representation of his honest life. And what I'm saying is that ultimately, yes, he might be dishonest. He might, like I said, this is kind of a biopic. This is a situation, like even though he's actually telling the story, it's like a biopic of his actual life, of what happened. And yes, he has grandeur, ideas of grandeur of how everything went. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that he still told a true story of what happened. Now, it might have been over sensationalized. It might have been flowery to an extent. But I think we got
a lot of those things. Some of those things did not happen at all. They didn't even exist.
Like what?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Because like when you brought up the example,
but he will say that it existed.
Well, you said like you brought up the example about WrestleMania that they mortgaged their house. There's I don't see anything of that not being true. They did talk about they did other events and so forth, but I mean them mortgaging their house for the biggest event that they've ever ran, I could kind of believe that. Now, did he maybe exaggerate? But did he exaggerate?
The biggest event they ever ran.
So you're saying WrestleMania was never not the biggest event at that time?
At that point, no, it was about the same level of the previous 5 before that. That's the thing. Yeah. See, you're falling into it. That's why Vince is so good at this.
But they talked about it.
The only reason why he highlights WrestleMania is because of the stars.
That was the only successful one.
Yeah, it was the most successful one because of the stars that he brought in. He brought in actual pop stars and actors and stuff like that. That was the only reason why that was highlighted.
It was the success,
but it wasn't dishonest.
It was a success, yes.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, it's not. is the most successful, and then could he have exaggerated what happened? Yes, but I don't consider it necessarily dishonest, saying like, hey, I failed 10 times, but then I did actually make the biggest, wrestling event of all time for wrestling at that moment. I don't think that's really dishonest. And did he put a lot more on the line because he had Cyndi Lauper, who was one of the biggest pop stars during the 80s? No, I don't think that's 100% dishonest. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you guys might, and the thing is, you guys might feel a little bit more particular about it because you guys might care more. I'm taking from the viewpoint of what I remember seeing as a kid to watching this, and throughout the years as up to an adult, and then watching this, and I'm like, okay, this seems legit because at the time, nobody cared about wrestling. Back in WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3, nobody cared about wrestling to that extent as it was in like the 90s and the early 2000s. So the fact that was one of my first like big experiences into wrestling, I can kind of believe that. But I think like I said, this documentary overall, even though there might have been some exaggeration on the grandeur of Vince McMahon's
just maybe
his influence on it. But I think overall, I think it's still a very telling tale of who he was as a person, right? Like as Darkseid said, they allowed him to speak, so you get to see who he really was, regardless if it's true or not. You can see the scale of how he builds himself up, and then you have other people also bigging him up as well. And the second thing that I wanted to bring up was about Stone Cold. Stone Cold, Vince didn't say that he made Stone Cold. Stone Cold said he made himself. And that Vince saw him.
I didn't say that he made Stone Cold. I said that he made the. Well, maybe I misspoke.
He took Stone Cold's.
Not Stone Cold. I said he took Stone Cold. Like literally grabbed the person Stone Cold and brought it to WWE. Is what I said.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He took it from
I didn't say he stole.
Yeah, he took it from ECW.
Yeah, he did steal it from ECW. Yeah.
Yeah, you get.
Well, not steal it, but he purchased it. Everyone's for sale.
Yes, he saw Stone Cold. Yeah. He needed a person after Hulk Hogan. He talked about this. How Hulk Hogan wasn't the good guy. He wasn't the guy anymore. Yeah. And Hulk Hogan bowed out himself. And then at that point, he's like,
hey, it was more like Hulk Hogan got paid a ton more money to go to WCW.
Yeah.
But this is like in the documentary they highlighted.
I'm going through levels. Yes. Stone Cold, if you want, not Stone Cold. Hulk Hogan, he bowed out himself. He came back and he was like, "Hey, I don't have the Hulkamania fan like I used to have." So yeah, he came back, and then Ted Turner pretty much said, "Hey, there were some disagreements between him and Vince." He left for ECW. Ted Turner gave him a much bigger contract. Vince said he couldn't pay him anyways as much as Hulk Hogan wanted, so he went there. But what I'm saying is that ultimately, at the end of the day, Stone Cold, Vince found Stone Cold in ECW because he needed another it guy. He had no other it guy at the time, and he was bleeding. He was bleeding. He needed somebody that was young, who's going possibly he could build up to be successful. And then he wasn't Stone Cold. Then he just had the Stone Cold persona. Came over him and Vince. Stone Cold said him and Vince worked on the character of how they should be. They built the story, and then he himself built Stone Cold to what it was today when he was wrestling. What's his name? The religious guy.
Took what Paul Heyman was doing.
Yeah, he literally grabbed Paul Heyman.
But hold on.
Yes, I know they're working it together.
Go on YouTube. There's
also was like, what's his name? The writer Vince Russo.
Yeah.
Combined with all these other idiots are the ones that came up with the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
So, but I'm disputing this.
But Vince said he did it.
That Vince.
Hold on. Let me ask you guys.
In fact, it wasn't him creating it.
Let me ask you guys here. You said Stone Cold. The Stone Cold. You just mentioned that he sells more merchandise and he's so popular and he has such an impact. Does Stone Cold Steve Austin achieve that without Vince McMahon?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's correct. So that's the thing that. And I think that this documentary does not shy away. So going back real quick to the WrestleMania thing, I don't think you can you're talking about, they didn't mention that they failed 5 times.
No. It's fine. I'm not taking credit away. I'm giving him all the credit in the world. He did it, all this, and nobody else had been able to do it up to that point before Vince or since Vince.
What I'm saying is the documentary does not address that. And I'm sure for time they cut a lot of things and they zeroed in on what's important for the documentary. But I think with that, by you telling me that, and I know you and Ed Underground are big fans, so I know that this is true. and it fits into the man that I watched. This information only adds on to that persona that this is probably true. There are many times when they cornered him. Obviously, he would say only what he wanted to say. There was when they get to the point where I guess was it the female referee that he was accused of raping, and they brought up his name. They brought up her name, and much like I hate to bring him up this early in the podcast, but much like our great former president Donald Trump, he has a similar answer. Like you asked, they brought up her name in the podcast. And he's like, "I heard of her. She worked there, and then she quit." And then she came back. I don't know anything about it. That's something like Donald Trump would say the exact same.
That's funny thing. They're actually good pals.
Yeah, they're really good friends. And they have similar personalities.
No kidding, huh? No kidding.
Yeah. Well, actually, Linda works in Trump's cabinet. I think
no kidding.
Sector or something.
They did a very good job of that in that last episode.
Yes,
connecting those dots.
I thought that was beautiful actually, because I mean there was when they were bringing up the fact that, and I already thought that while I was watching the episode, but they said it was the wrestleification of a politician, and I was like, that explains him perfectly. I was like, that is very good. That was probably one of the damnest things I've ever heard anybody say.
Dude, remember the rallies?
Yes,
it was literally like a wrestling promo. You're really absolutely right.
Yes, I'm not gonna lie. In my mind, that even though that segment was only maybe 10 minutes long, I was like, holy shit! Like that is really that you could sum up his entire campaign and presidency off of WrestleMania, like or not WrestleMania, his WWE, and I'm just like, wait a minute, like. I remember Donald Trump being in WWE, but I did not remember how he acted and how you could see the descent of him as like I've seen like earlier clips of Trump, and then you see him in WrestleMania, and granted, okay, you're supposed to be playing a character, but it's like he almost hasn't stopped playing. It's like he descended into a wrestler
with the same delivery,
same delivery, and everything. I was like, wait a minute, like this is absolutely insane.
They call wrestling fans dumb, but I don't think so. I think you're the smartest. And I'm like, holy shit, just replace the word wrestling with whatever. They say you're like, One Piece fans are dumb people. I don't agree. I think Naruto fans are actually the smartest. I have the biggest crowds, and
fuck that guy.
Yeah, it was it was really weird to see that, because I felt like we were on the campaign trail.
They're like really, really good friends. Like legit, they said they share a lot of, and the thing is like they share the same like background too. Like they both had like very successful distant fathers.
Yes.
Yep.
That would not give him any love, and they both are making up for whatever it is that they're missing, and they have that same mentality of like, hey, I've never lost, I will never lose.
Yeah.
And I will always get my way.
Now I want more.
Oh well, actually, you know what? You know the reason why that allegation came out about that poor assistant or whatever, the last one that really got him in hot water, was because Vince decided to stop paying. I think up to that point he was doing the same thing Trump did. He would just like make the first payment of like an agreement,
and then just forget.
And after that, he'd be like, "You want the rest of it? Sue me, motherfucker! I'm a billionaire." Yeah. And it didn't work out with this girl because he stopped making the payment, and that's why she came out, because he broke the NDA, and he was like, "Fuck you, sue me if you want, the rest of the money."
Well, he was paying her like $200,000 a year, which was crazy. And then he had promised her within, I think, 8 months or to a year that she would become vice president of WWF, or WWE, and it was just like, what? Like the arrogance of these two characters, with Trump and with McMahon, it's just
Trump does that all the time, right? To like contractors and shit, he'll just stop paying them.
It's just so weird. This biopic or this documentary was absolutely amazing. I
thought it was amazing too.
The one thing that I really kind of I saw that we didn't get no Goldberg.
Surprising.
Yeah, surprising.
Goldberg.
Especially with Bret Hart being so prominent in the first few episodes.
They had to get Bret Hart specifically because Bret Hart came in a very crucial point in WWE, which was the Montreal Screwjob. Literally, that's like wrestling lore that everyone has to learn about if you like wrestling. So they had to get him. And like to your point with Creamcast said, like Bret Hart will tell you the hard truth, just like Teddy Atlas, the older guy that they showed at the beginning.
Yeah,
those motherfuckers will actually tell you, like, this is what it is, and you can trust them fairly well that they're telling the truth.
Well, because they were
remember when he said, like, when they got into that fight,
he's like, I want to punch him.
He spit in his face.
Yeah, spit in his face. And I think that's the only thing that I think the first few episodes, I really enjoyed listening to Bret Hart. Now, I've listened to Bret Hart in the past, but I think this was really well shot and really concise in him talking. Because in the past, he'll air out his grievances and just be like, okay, it's a lot. But this one, he was very pinpoint on what was going on, how he got screwed over, how he felt about it, and then also with his brother dying, how he felt about that, and kind of the resolution he got off of finding out that it was genuinely a mistake, but he always thought at a certain point that Vince had killed his brother on purpose, and that just gives it go back to Darkseid's point. It kind of gives you the mentality of what now people are not going to say this for the most part, like and what Green Tuner said. Bret Hart will tell the truth. He's going to tell you the truth how he felt. I felt like a lot of people probably felt a lot worse about Vince, but they're not going to say it in order to preserve.
If you want to have a job, you don't talk about Vince.
Exactly. And when he talked about that, and that's what Sable talked about, Trish talked about, or was specifically Trish. Trish was like, hey, if you want to keep a job and you don't want to piss him off, you do what he says, or you're going to get punished. And when she got punished by losing the belt and getting humiliated.
Yeah. Who was that one? I forgot her name. The one woman who ended up dying like years later. There was a segment.
Nobody believed her. She was
no one believed her.
Everyone thought she was full of cock.
There was a segment where she ran into Vince, and Vince had coffee in his hand, and when they bumped, the coffee spilled on Vince. That part that Vince was talking to her, that felt way too
sorrow.
Yeah, that shit was
that felt way too personal, too real. Like
so real quick, because again, going back, I'm going to talk about something that I've heard of it, from a distance, and they touched on this, and I'm glad they touched on this. Obviously, the Owen Hart death thing, and the what's his name, the Benoit. Those two moments, Vince's that is like super villain-esque. The show must go on.
Dark side leaked out,
dude. The show must
the carnival must go on.
To hear the wrestlers, I mean, I don't know if you guys were I don't know if I'm curious to know if you guys knew about that
blood on the stage. It was fucking horrific.
I did not know about that till much later.
That's what I wanted to know. How much did you guys know about that? Where they were talking about the wrestlers behind backstage?
Yeah,
his body was
walking into the ring.
His body was being wheeled out, and they're like pushing them out to go. The show must go on. And of course, the scenes where they showed the blood, I was like, I didn't did you guys know that was the blood stain of this Owen Hart?
I didn't know until later.
Yeah,
at the moment, no.
No one knew
at
about
the
that.
moment, no. Yeah,
I remember.
It was years later.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
I know you guys knew about this shit. So I'm just curious, is this the most behind the scenes of that moment that you guys had, or this is not I know you knew about all
this is just scratching the tip of it. There's
a
lot more that goes into
in detail.
Well, so people have talked about that moment more behind the scenes and everything.
Yeah,
you could literally make another whole documentary series just based on that day.
You can make one just on the whole Bret Hart thing.
Yeah, people wrestling fans knew. Wrestling fans knew about it, but if you're watching this from the outside aspect of, hey, I'm just a casual wrestling fan, and especially in the later year
It'll blow your mind. It's blow your mind.
Yeah, you be like, oh my goodness, how could that ever happen?
Yeah.
How does that sit with wrestling fans then? How does Vince McMahon
uncomfortably? Everyone hates it. Everyone except Vince hates it. Wow. And I'm being, grandiose, obviously, but a lot of people hate it. A lot of people hate it.
The fans don't care as much. They think it sucks, but a lot of fans are just kind of like, shit happens. I mean, but the wrestlers themselves, they're not.
No.
A lot of fans.
No, I'm saying
don't like it.
They don't like it, but they don't care. Like, let's be honest. Most
people obviously, they're not gonna fucking boycott it.
Boycott. Yes, I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Darkseid's question was if they liked it, and the answer is no.
Well, yeah, no one liked it.
My question was like, Vince McMahon is such a towering, massive figure in the WWE. Yeah. He walks out, everyone knows who he is. It's like everyone has an opinion on this man. Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, that's why I was asking you. Did people know about like the details they described about like not just the bloodstain, but like did wrestlers talked about like this dead body being wheeled past? Like, this is a heavy ass thing.
It's really dark.
So how is Vince McMahon
actually there's a 20 for 20, what is it that
30 for 30.
Thank you. I think there's a 30 for 30 on it, and you'll actually get a deeper dive into it if you want to look at it. I'm pretty sure
I will actually watch
that or Dark Side of the Ring. It's one of those two. It might be Dark Side of the Ring.
I think it's Dark Side of the Ring. That's what I was saying. That's why I was answering his question. I was like, the fans don't care. And that's what I'm saying. The fans, they it's heavy, right? But the fans, like as they said, the fans they still wanted to see wrestling. Now,
I don't think they knew.
They didn't.
The fans, because they interviewed some people on that day, and they actually saw him die. Because they said it was like a blackout, but the big screens were still on, so you still had like ambient lighting.
Yeah, they could still see ambient lighting.
Saw him die on stage,
but when they turn the lights on, I mean, they kind of knew.
Yeah, when they turned the lights on, they already had taken the body out.
But that's a difference between when you do it live and they're telecasting it versus
this was off camera.
People who are in there didn't know. Now the people who are watching on TV, they did find out. So that's what I'm saying. There's a difference when people. I think people, for the most part, and I think this was just wrestling fans at the time for the Attitude Era, they just want to see more and more. And even Vince said,
of course eventually more and more.
Yeah, eventually Vince was like, and even Triple H was like, there's eventually going to be a point where we're going to have to stop. Like, when is that point going to stop? We don't know. But eventually it's going to come to a point where we're going to have to stop. I think people cared about like Owen Hart dying, but I think for the most part, people got over it quick. And I think that's the part where the fans
everyone gets over everything quick. Yeah, right? Any national tragedy, eventually you get over it. But again, I was just answering Sayed's question whether wrestling fans liked it, and the answer is no. So it doesn't mean that just because you don't like something doesn't mean you stop supporting it. It just means that you don't like that moment in history.
Sure. Yeah. But I know like what you're talking about, like, what you just said, like people get over things quick, and we do as a nation and as a group of people.
We have to, otherwise we couldn't survive as a species.
Absolutely. But wrestling is so insular. Like this community of fans and everything is so insular. It's so like Owen Hart falls and dies, right? I heard about it, but it didn't end my world. I knew about it, and it didn't stop everything. No, but if you were a wrestling fan, the way this documentary portrays it, it sure as hell, and the Chris Benoit thing, it sure as hell feels like in that small community of wrestling fans and fandom, it was a big deal. And the idea of it's like I'm trying to give you the equivalent of it. It's like 9/11 happened, and like George Bush would come out and try to like, let's move it along, everyone, let's just keep going. Yeah, like I mean, and not like I don't know if it represented
the Bret Hart was heartbreaking because of the show going on and everything. Yeah. The Benoit was on a whole nother level. Now you're talking about a man that killed his family, and like this is like guy that, like up to that point, exactly.
Yeah, that was watching wild.
I was a fan.
To their point, they didn't know until after that celebration.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying, like levels of magnitude. That's why I'm saying the Owen Hart thing wasn't a big deal. I think and I'm gonna be honest with you. I think you guys are trying to pretend to be better people than you are. I remember when the news people heard it, people didn't care as much. It's like, damn, that really sucked.
Again, but not people, wrestling fans.
I'm talking about wrestling fans. When I say people, because you're hung up. Okay, you're hung.
Wrestling fans.
I'm talking about wrestling fans. I'm talking about wrestling fans. I don't know why you're getting so.
We're wrestling fans because we're wrestling fans.
Wally, you're up here. Calm down. It's not that serious.
No.
When I say people, I'm talking about wrestling fans.
It's excited. It's not.
I'm talking about wrestling fans. When I say people, I mean wrestling fans. People really didn't like. all wrestling fans that I know, like hardcore, used to wear T-shirts and so forth, wrestling T-shirts and high school type of people. People didn't care as much. Now, I'm not saying that they weren't.
What's a wrestling forum?
Come on.
Yeah, they was like, it sucks. It's weird, and people were kind of like, Vince should have stopped it. Like most people, I think would have been in agreement. Like they shouldn't have actually wrestled. I think
no way, baby. No way.
Yeah, the show goes on. But I think at the time, I honestly I remember the time, like it was heavy, but I don't think it was a showstopper for most people looking at it, because at that point when people found out about it, it was just kind of like, damn, that really sucks. Man, I wonder what they're gonna do on the next Monday Night Raw. Okay, next Monday Night Raw, and just the show kept moving.
That's what
Chris Benoit was a lot.
With Benoit, people still tuned in.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not, you can't compare it that way either.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like wrestling again. The question was, did wrestling fans like it? No, they did not like it.
But hold on,
it's not like they lost sleep. It's not like they went on a hunger strike or lost all faith in humanity. They just didn't like it.
Well, I think that's a difference between different genres, and maybe like when you hear about other people doing some foul stuff, right? Do ticket sales go down? Do people boycott? Yes. Wrestling fans didn't boycott, right? They didn't say they weren't like, oh my God, Vince, the show kept going on, even though, and then
maybe some did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they.
I'm not talking about like you see how people like a situation like with Chris Brown, right? When he got into the situation with Rihanna, it was it wasn't that just some people. It was a massive amount of people that went against him. Nobody went against Vince McMahon in the situation. Like they might not have liked the situation. They didn't like that he died, and they were like, "Yo, this sucks." But there was not a mass. We're gonna go against Vince McMahon because he had the show go on. He had his wrestlers have to look at the body of their friend died and still wrestle that day. It is not this mass exodus from wrestling, and people weren't like boycotting wrestling. They just kept.
Well, yeah, because
they were just like, man, this sucks.
Same thing. Aaron Hernandez murders someone, or another football player commits some horrible crime. People don't stop watching the NFL.
Yeah, but okay.
Again,
I was about to mention
people
that.
Can still not like what Aaron Hernandez did. They can
totally
still not like it. Totally different.
Yeah, totally different.
Wrestling audience is the closest equivalent I can get to a Roman Coliseum audience in modern age. Like with football, there's football.
Also the UFC.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the UFC.
UFC is real, but the drama and the. Like, you know what I'm saying? That whole
it's emotional response.
It's
emotional investment.
Pro wrestling is basically a soap opera.
What I'm saying is Owen Hart dies in the ring, and I think a large portion of that audience, if they knew what happened, they would say, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah.
When's the show going to start again? Like, I mean, how long is it going to take to get this body out of here? That's the response.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. Guarantee you, and that's where Vince McMahon comes from. The show must go. He is a Roman fucking Caligula, but he knows his audience.
No, I disagree with that.
Like I said, pro wrestling comes from the circus. What do you expect? It's a carny.
Yes,
it comes from carny roots. We got the carniest of carny. Like
I agree. I agree with you. I know, but I think what I'm saying is it's a unique sport, and he's the perfect man to be in. If somebody, if Tom Brady has a coronary, attack in the field, that game stops. That game stops, and it might not resume.
That's a little different.
That might not resume. Yeah. That game does not keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they got a little more sense. Yeah.
Okay, that's the difference between.
But that's what Green Tuna brought up. He brought up Aaron Hernandez. So I mean, you can't say.
Yeah, you did bring up Aaron Hernandez.
So that's what I'm saying. I think you're making an equivalent exchange or equivalent comparison between wrestling and football. I think the fans, while they are upset, and this is why I think you're not. That's why I'm thinking you're not understanding the question. I mean that's why I think when you're saying, oh well, fans, they were upset, they didn't like it. I think it's not just more they just didn't like it. I think most people just didn't really care that much. I think that's what wrestling.
If they had stopped the show that night, I would have understand perfectly. Like out of respect, stop the show.
I think,
but if they went back the next week, I would understand too. Yeah, well, that was.
They didn't know. But the thing is, they didn't know.
Well, look, it was never going to be stopped. Period. At the end of the day, it was never going to be stopped because Vince will not stop it.
He's not going to stop it.
Plain as day. He tore his fucking quads, remember?
And
he kept the damn show going.
He sat down and
he didn't stop telling the fucking cameras.
But the thing is, at least the one thing I can give Vince, and I think we can all say this fair, regardless if you think it's true or not, the fact that at least he had the wherewithal to say, if I had died that day, I would still want the show to go on. I truly believe him.
I 100% believe him.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, at least he's fair about it.
If his daughter had died, he would be like, fuck it. Keep the show going.
Yeah, keep going. I'm gonna go grieve, but y'all gonna continue wrestling. And I 100% believe him. So that's why I think that, honestly, at the end of the day, I think he made the right choice. While it may have sucked, and it was horrible for, I don't feel bad.
I'm not debating whether it was the right choice or not either. So just
I'm not saying you are. I think it was the right. I think it was the right choice for him. I'll say it was the right choice for him. If it was for me, I would be like,
it was the right choice for him. And who knows? Like the butterfly. If he stopped it, maybe we wouldn't be where it is today. We don't know.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I'll say this. There's another wrestling promotion called AEW, and when one of their stars died, they didn't die. He didn't die inside the ring, but when that person died, they did a whole segment for him. Not just like a 10-minute thing and ring the bell 10 times. They did a whole full show in the passing of his death. Yeah, that was his choice. That was the right decision. His choice, very respectful. What Vince did, that was his choice, but I don't think it was respectful.
I mean, I think
it was what was expected and what
it for sure was expected of Vince.
Expecting. Is not only expected from Vince, it was expected of what the WWF promises
of what he wanted his brand to be. Correct.
Yes. Of his brand. Yes. It would have been uncharacteristic for him to walk out and be like, I'm sorry. The show was canceled. Impossible. Yeah. Impossible.
Well, right? Look, no. So
I'll give Vince
did that for Chris Benoit.
Hold on. Exactly. The Chris Benoit thing. So there is a segment that you all know about.
Hold on. Now, I was going to talk about this.
No, hold on. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it.
You can.
Vince McMahon.
Ed, I just owe you an apology. You bitch, I owe you an apology.
Interrupt me. You, then. When Vince McMahon did his own segment and his own death, and when he walked into a limo, and then the next scene cuts and the limo explodes.
Yes, yeah.
That was his storyline. Hold on. That was his storyline death. And people actually believed it. People on the news actually
hold on.
People believe the
people put candles, everything up for Vince McMahon, and then
could have believed that.
Coincidentally,
I'm sorry, guys.
Does that sound familiar?
Guys,
is it ringing bells?
Guys, I'm gullible. I'm sorry. I fell for it.
Did what he did, and then.
Is something in the back of your mind reminiscing something similar?
Familiar about this.
Something's really familiar.
And said that, hey, I'm back.
I have made
that reason out of respect. Ed, he chose that. He didn't have to do it.
Fun of Ed of this moment, and we've talked about it on this podcast for years. For years. And as I said before at the start of the segment, I'm not a fan.
Now you're talking about the whole situation. You guys talked about the whole time I said that.
I'm not a fan of wrestling. So everything I see from through Ed's eyes or through news and popular culture.
Green Tuner's eyes, because he's a wrestling fan too.
When that moment,
but you're more vocal about it.
No, I never thought that was real.
When that moment happened, that Vince McMahon died in that limo explosion.
Yes.
And Ed burst into that room that I was in, sitting on the couch. And the way they showed it in this segment, like they showed what Ed would have seen, right?
It was the worst.
It was on his phone or something.
This is the first time I understood, like the way they captured it. I didn't realize that. I thought they cut to a commercial and oh, gotcha. I didn't know that there was like
a cut.
My God!
Obviously. Like, I guess I owe Ed some kind of apology because obviously, not a total apology because it is a video, like him getting in the limo and it explodes, and you have to have a certain kind of like dumbass, why is the camera there? However, there was an attempt, there was an honest attempt by Vince McMahon to be like, I'm dead, I died, and I can't, like that's the story, and
Dark Side,
it makes sense.
I just had an epiphany. Right now, when you were talking about the gullibility of Ed and the common wrestling fan.
False.
I need to apologize to both you and Creamcast for putting that much faith in the wrestling fans to be able to differentiate between what's ethical and what's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I never said that was cool. Hold on, what?
Yes.
I never said that was cool.
I feel like you guys give wrestling fans way too.
I do.
You give them way too much credit.
I never said that was cool.
The brain cells.
I don't think anybody said that was cool.
I need to stop watching wrestling, guys.
No, I'm not. No one's saying you stop. Right? Look, the spectacle of it is
wrestling.
Outstanding. Like I said, it's outstanding. The spectacle is unlike anything. Even professional football doesn't have the thrill of.
You're right. Professional football is like people with doctorates compared to.
It really is. It really is. It really is.
Like I'm not gonna lie. Like
football players are actually wrestlers now, and in some cases.
In some cases, no, that's true. But the thing is that
because they couldn't make it in football, so hey, try out wrestling. There's a few ex-football players actually who are not wrestlers.
No, absolutely no. I mean,
one of them is Roman Reigns, actually.
Roman Reigns, The Rock. He tried to go. He went into football, and he can.
Batista?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
Batista was
I think.
Everyone, most of those guys had eventually had like high school football, right? Is that what they're talking about? I know.
I'm talking about NFL.
College?
I'm talking about NFL.
I don't know.
Yeah, look,
he was Brazilian. He was a Brazilian footballer, so he plays soccer. So
wasn't Brock Lesnar one?
Brock Lesnar. I was surprised. He's huge as
well.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying,
Breaker.
But back to like what Cream was saying about the documentary.
The documentary. At the end of the day, I think this was. I mean, ultimately, I believe this was. I think we kind of already scrubbed through all this. Vince's career, and what he did with the WWE, WWF, then WWE, and then buying out the ECW for $2.5 million was, and then what wrestling is today is, I'm not gonna lie.
You mean WCW, right?
WCW. Just the library, like the intellectual rights that he got is
massive. I remember
business mindset.
I remember when he bought ECW. I remember when they did the dual simulcast.
Library too.
When they did the simulcast, and
I saw it live.
Yeah, I remember seeing it live. And
I wish I had seen it. WCW sidecast when he actually bought out WCW, and he was telling people live on there, and then we actually see WCW, a live feed of WCW on WWF, and then we see Shane O'Mac on it. Yeah. That was like the most like bizarre, awesome thing in the world.
Well, because as a kid, I didn't realize
that would have melted your brain.
It was a Monday Night War.
It melted my brain. But the thing is, as a kid, a younger person, I didn't realize that these were two different, actual, legit different federations. I thought that this was all scripted. Like there was like this whole storyline of them hating each other. And even Vince Vince was talking about the fans were kind of picking on each side. I didn't, as a wrestling fan, I didn't pick a side. I was like WCW, WWF. I was cool with both because in the end of the day, you got to see, especially WWF people at WCW. To me, I was just like, I'm just getting to see all the people that I wanted to see anyways. It didn't matter to me. And then watching this documentary, it just reminded me of the excitement when I remember seeing that. It was like, yeah, this was a brain melt situation. It was absolutely mind-boggling.
It was insane. Like I said, I didn't watch it at the time.
Oh, I did.
But yeah, it would have been because you're so used to tuning in to like TNT or whatever it was from WCW.
Yes.
And just seeing Vince, the head of the competition, it'd be like, I don't know what would the equivalent be. Like
Nintendo buying out at that time.
Yeah, like a Nintendo Direct. And then it opens up and it's the guy from Microsoft or something. You'll be like, what? Wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was absolutely amazing.
And you said you saw it live?
Yeah, I saw it live. It was like the most brain melting thing because I used to watch WWF on one TV and then downstairs.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, weren't they on at the same time? Like, how would you watch? Like, what was your process? And I think you talked about you running up and down the stairs at one point.
Yeah, they were on at the same time, but the thing was, WCW was live. and WWF was not live at the time. It wasn't until later. So at many times, WCW will actually tell you what was going to happen of their WWF competitor.
Yeah.
Because WWF was not live at the time. Eventually, they did become live when I think it was a time when Rock became hot, Austin became hot, Undertaker was still there, Kane was still there. Around that time, when the Attitude Era was starting to be.
Is it live now?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's live now.
Yeah,
it's live now.
Depends on where you stream it. Sometimes if you watch it on Hulu, it's the day after. But if you watch it on cable, or I think it might be a week after. But
it's both live now. Isn't like one pre-recorded though? I thought SmackDown was pre-recorded.
Back and forth. I think SmackDown became like live at a time, then not live, then it became live again. Yeah.
So when the Netflix version of this show launches, is it going to be live?
Oh, it's going to be live, and I think no commercials either.
Yeah, actually, that'll be very cool. Another I guess my final take here my takeaway from this entire 6-episode Odyssey is like I wish I had someone in my life as loyal as Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels,
yeah,
is Shawn Michaels to Vince McMahon is such a loyal soldier. Like as far as this documentary,
he tried to go to WCW. Yeah, but he wanted too much money.
Yeah,
well, I'll give you one better. The way he talks about the thing about Undertaker is, and like I said, my only
Undertaker is loyal though.
He's the loyal.
Undertaker is
right. And Triple H is loyal as well.
Well, Triple H's family, son.
His family now.
I don't know if he was.
No, he's loyal.
Undertaker. No, well. So, do you know about the click, the curtain call, and they broke kayfabe that one time? I mean, he was loyal.
They quickly addressed it in the documentary.
Yeah, but I would say Undertaker is the loyalist. I mean, that's Vince's guy.
As far as old school wrestlers,
I mean that's fine. But like as far as this documentary was, like I think they
portraying, they did portray him in a very.
Undertaker was like, I don't think he didn't want to say a lot, or he came
actually
out.
Same thing. Undertaker, another guy that's all like super honest.
Yeah,
no, but this documentary, whatever Undertaker's there, you can bet that it's more than likely true.
Honest,
because you're right. Whenever he doesn't want to answer something, he'll just be honest and be like, I don't want to answer that.
And Undertaker didn't start like actually talking up until the point when he actually retired. That's when he started talking more. He even has his own podcast.
I guess he retired for like the third or fourth time recently.
Officially,
officially, that's when he started talking more.
Then I guess I mean that the way Shawn Michaels like at this point addresses Vince McMahon, like it came off to me as he's like that's a perfect example of someone who's loyal to you. And I know like there's a lot of tribulations. All these people have come and left and gone, and but there's a certain attachment to this man who's a father figure. You know what I mean? Like they break apart, they come together. Like there's such
they have some
it's
weird
more like
chemistry there.
He treats it like business. Like he said that many times, even before the documentary. Like if it's best for business, he'll do it. He puts his personal things aside. Like he brought back Bret Hart,
Sable, who was suing him for sexual harassment.
That was a crazy one. And then he added it into the show, right?
The storyline. So again, all said and done,
there's a lot of shit
this is the great thing about Vince. We can just talking about him, we can argue and whatever. There's like no lack of content because he's so mysterious. Because even though he talked about himself, he left a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
Like what happened between ages 1 and 12? Because he didn't move in with Vince Sr. until he was like, because he went to like army school or something. So he literally only joined Vince Sr. Like joined the gym until he was like 19 or so. Like what happened then?
Fucked up childhood before 12.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like he alludes to it, but he won't say like straight up like, I was molested. He just said, there was incest and whatever.
Incest.
And then you're like,
I don't think They didn't capitalize on that.
On that.
Yeah, but he said it really quick. He's like, yeah, there was a lot of fighting, abuse, and incest, but I just had a really tough childhood with my father. And
by the way, the stock market was pretty good today.
But they did to give the documentarian credit when he addressed that molestation and incest and everything. They did back it up with immediately bookend it with him talking about how other people use molestation as to commit acts. That's edited. That's intentionally edited.
Yes.
No.
So we may not have talked about it, but the impact of that, whether or not it's true or not, or whether he's using that as an excuse,
it affected him.
It affected him
for sure. It had to. It's a child. Look, it's again, all said and done. Obviously, he's done monstrous thing, and he's been cutthroat and everything. But what do you expect? This is a person who was born in like pure poverty, being beaten every day by his stepdad and possibly sexually assaulted by his mother, right? Possibly. We don't know. Could you imagine what that does to a child? That's and the fact that he was able to like grab that, and where most people would just crumble, he was literally able to like capitalize on the chances he got and was able to turn it into like $1 billion company. You know what
honestly,
I mean?
If his real dad didn't show up, I mean, think about it. If his real dad didn't show up, would Vince be where he was?
No, I think just how
I think he would be in
fate.
Well, no, I don't think he would be in wrestling, but he'd be in another avenue.
Yeah, he would be somewhere else.
Big, he's got something. He's got something very rare in him that you're like that moral ambiguity,
it's a crazy drive.
Yeah, you could shut off a part of your just ethics when you need to.
Yeah,
right?
Remember what he said? He's like, well, if they don't like it, fuck them. That's America.
Well, I mean, he was completely driven to be successful. And I think he would have been successful whatever endeavor he did.
Yeah, I think wrestling was just because of his dad, because that's what his dad happened to be into. You know what I mean?
But there is something very what Darkside said with this documentary. I think really highlighted is that ethics wise, this man is willing to do. No, I would say he doesn't have any. As far as wrestling is concerned, I'm not going about the allegations, but I think that he's willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. Whether it comes at life or limb, even for himself, he did not care.
He played fall with his son Shane McMahon, and then he said he like grabbed his rib or something like that, and then he actually told Shane in that moment, "You see, son, something you guys always win or something like that. I always win."
He's like, but you cheated. He's like, but I won.
Exactly.
But I think this is a great. I think this is by letting Vince speak, and granted, there's probably hundreds of hours of footage that they have that they just didn't use to try to keep this a nice, concise documentary. But at the end of the day,
I think they said they had 14 hours of like, that might be over an exaggeration, but they have an insane amount of Vince McMahon
just grunting.
Him talking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. By letting him talk, you kind of get to see more of his character, and it kind of makes me sad for him in an extent, because not sad because I think he's a monster, but it makes me sad for him because it came to a point where you don't know, and even after watching this, at the end, I didn't know who was the real Vince McMahon. I didn't know if Mr. McMahon or Vince McMahon, who's the real McMahon, and to a point where he doesn't even know. That just shows you
his kids don't even know sometimes.
Yeah, well, his kids
didn't say that. Like his family sometimes.
Well, even Shawn Michaels said he's like, he's like, people will tell you that's not really him. He's like, no, that's him. And a lot of people were saying like Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon is who he really is. So by looking at that and seeing him play this role for how many years he has, this is not, and remember, this is not like acting where you play a role for 8 months and then you don't have to play it no more. You play it for certain times, but you go home. This man truly was embodying this character. So
and very well.
Yeah, very well. He did a great job. I mean, I remember as a kid, I don't remember one person liking Vince McMahon.
That didn't hate him.
Everybody hated him.
That's why everybody loved Stone Cold. Remember, because Stone Cold was like the employee beating the shit out of the boss.
Anti-establishment. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're like, yeah, fuck you,
fuck
Vince.
you. Yeah, fuck you.
Some would say the only reason why Mr. McMahon was even like born was the Montreal screw job, because people thought that was, well, it was real, but it was so like captivating.
Yeah, well,
like
they addressed it in this documentary too. Yeah,
the next few nights, people were like just booing him, and he was
genuinely trying to like explain to the people. He thought people were gonna see it his way, but obviously they didn't. But heat sells, man. People love seeing a good villain.
But he took. But the thing is, I gotta give Vince credit on that. He took it. He took it, and he was like, "Hey, he screwed Bret Hart out of his championship belt. He screwed him out of that, and screwed up his leaving as he went. Because remember, the thing is like that's why I have a newfound respect for Bret Hart. Because I mean, this was a situation that they talked about. Vince, pretty much said, "Hey, leave. These are the loopholes. You need to get out of here. I understand you need to make more money. I get it. This is a better opportunity." And I feel for Bret, because Bret was like, "I'm going to take this for money," but you could tell by how Bret was talking. He was willing to come back. As soon as Vince got back on his feet, Bret would have been back there in a heartbeat. And that's why I felt that betrayal. You could see in his eyes, like he really got betrayed, because, granted, he could have stayed with Vince.
It was a different time back then, though. Like, you don't want your superstars to like be the champion and then leave with a win with the belt to another your competitor. Because back then, kayfabe was still a thing. Yeah. All those terms are still a thing, so it was a different time.
You want to pass the torch.
If it happened now, it wouldn't. If Bret Hart was here now in 2024 and won, it would be fine.
Yeah, but you want to pass the torch on, because that story, that continuous storyline, was so pivotal to the essence of wrestling. And like, I felt that betrayal. So like he literally got screwed, because you could tell in his heart, like, he trusted Vince. And even at the last second, when he got out of that hold, you can see he was still fighting. He didn't know that was about to happen. He jumped out.
He thought that they were still wrestling.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Ring the fucking bell. I was like, no. I felt really bad for Bret Hart, because you could tell he was 100% down for Vince, and he's like, Vince, we said we're gonna do this. This is what we're gonna do, and then Vince screwed him over. But hey, I gotta give Vince the credit, though. He allowed Bret Hart to get his lick in. He confronted Bret.
Okay, that was one of the ones where I was like, that is so cool, because the thing is, Vince is like, I went under with my hands down and he punched me. And then when they asked like the people that you can trust a little bit more, like Bret Hart and like Teddy Atlas, and everything's like, no, those two motherfuckers grappled. Yeah, they both went at it, and it's like, that makes more sense.
Yeah, he's like, don't let Vince lie to you.
Too much of like a fucking like fighter to be like allow what's his name to just like sucker punch him.
Yeah,
Vince was get it going in there ready to like tussle.
Yeah, I love how Bret was like, don't let him fucking lie to you. Nah, we fought. It wasn't my hands were down, and like you could get a free shot, Bret. I know I screwed you over. Nah, he fought back. But Bret, I was kind of happy that Bret got that nasty uppercut on him, because he deserved it.
Yeah. One thing I noticed too, how that really kind of birthed Mr. McMahon. The one thing about wrestling, either want a heat reaction or a babyface reaction. You don't want anything that's like just silent. That's the worst thing you can do or have in wrestling. You want emotion, and they always tend to like pivot from what the fans want rather what they want, and they still continue to do that. Like when The Rock came back recently, he was supposed to be the babyface, the good guy, and people were booing him because he basically messed up Cody's shot to be going to WrestleMania to fight Roman Reigns for the championship belt. But the fans booed The Rock so much, and he's like one of the best baby faces out there. But they booed him so much, they pivoted and made him heel. So it's always what the fans really want rather than what the company wants.
Yeah.
And it's been like that since then, and it is like that right now. It's always about emotion. If you get anything like if you get silence, that's the worst thing you can get. That's bad for business.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's what people are watching.
Yeah, no, I believe so too. So this was really great. I hopefully you get to see the little extra tidbits that I would have liked in that extra maybe another episode or two.
We'll
get it. We'll get
a new
it.
documentary.
You think so?
Yeah, because I want them to go deeper.
Dude, I'm itching. I'm itching for a season 2 or something. If whatever the trial comes out to be or whatever.
Yeah, we'll get another part. Well, at least one more part of it. So
yeah, he won't be in it.
Okay.
I feel like Cena won't be in it. Cena was being very careful about what he was saying. The Rock was very careful.
Here's the one.
Well, didn't they have a text that they said that most of the wrestler interviews were done before the thing? And I remember they even timestamped certain things so you knew like when they were talking, so that they couldn't be like accused of manipulating.
The biggest thing missing from this documentary, like I said, did all the things we talked about, but what's missing is the whole truth of the start of these allegations. Like I know this kind of like I don't know what the status is of
they'll probably get
any kind of legal action here, but if there's more to come, like I definitely think they left that door open for a final part, and you don't need any other. At this point, you don't need any celebrity. You don't need anyone else to talk. At this point, it's just you know enough information. You just need the final truth on that issue.
Yeah.
So I hope they do make another part of it. I think the door's open for it. But yeah, that would be great. Now, are we giving blurs to this?
Yeah, let's get.
We have to.
Yeah, let's give it blurries.
It's a documentary. It's a product. We absolutely should.
The blurries obviously are not.
It's for Vince McMahon, baby.
Yeah.
How many blurs y'all get? How many blurs y'all get, Vince McMahon?
Yeah,
11.
Let's go. Not for Vince McMahon, but let's go for the documentary.
Poopy blurs.
Yeah, we can give blurs to it. I don't really care.
I think it was a great documentary. Like in all the things
we should.
We should.
Right?
In the way it's presented.
No, but
not the people.
No, judging it as a documentary, obviously not about the content, but just the content to some extent, but the documentary as a whole, as a piece
not
of
the allegations,
not
the
put together.
Yes, exactly. As a piece of art.
My rating will encompass everyone. Encompass Vince McMahon as a person.
Those are your words.
Oh, okay. Anyway, you do that. I would give this documentary a 9.
What's the blurs I can give a man?
However you want to. Yeah.
9 blurs.
9 blurs. Yeah.
Very well made. Very, very well made.
Yeah, very well made. I'm not gonna lie. Granted, I did watch all the episodes today. For 6 hours while I was working. Yes, I have a very fresh opinion on it.
That's rough.
Yeah. It was a rough 6 hours to get through, but
I had to take breaks in between just to process all the shit.
I would say honestly, the first 3 episodes were absolutely amazing, and by episode 6, I was waiting for it to be over, but I still really enjoyed it. So, like I said, if they had done this weekly and I watched every episode weekly, is probably would be a 10. But overall, it was 9.
I'm so glad it came out in the format it did, because now I didn't watch it in one day, but I did probably watch it over 2.5 days, because
same here.
Like I was able to binge 3 episodes at a time, and they ended it. Every time they ended it, I'm like, I gotta watch the next episode.
Yeah, the clip.
Well,
this is from the 30 for 30 people, right?
I don't know.
Is what I heard. Yeah,
I don't know.
Those little cliffhangers.
It would make a lot of sense. Yeah, the way it was designed, and I don't know if there's the cliffhanger, but like they showed you glimpses of things that, I know what that is. Oh, that's the Attitude Era. That's the this. That's the that. That's they're going to talk about his family in this episode.
The one part they did show celebrity. They were showing clips of people throughout the documentary. One person that they never mentioned in it, but they showed a clip of him, literally for a split second, was Macaulay Culkin. He was in the crowd. They showed him.
Was in it?
Yes, he
was. I don't remember that.
Oh.
Yep, he was in there probably episode 2 or 3. They had showed him. And I was like, that was a nice little. That was a nice little.
A little nod to the times.
Yeah, a little Easter egg. But yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, I liked it a lot, and like I said, I'll give it. Honestly, I'll give it 9. I was really riveted by it. Like I said, from an outside observer of wrestling, I was riveted. And like I say, I have a different understanding of Vince McMahon, not a positive, just to I'm more appreciative of what he's achieved and brought to people. I know a lot of wrestling fans enjoy what he's built. Look at Ed, the liberal reaction, insane.
Oh, look at us.
Now look at Green Tuner. The visceral reaction to saying people versus fans. I mean, you don't really get that level of dedication unless you're
listen.
Unless you're a neckbeard that likes wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. I let my neckbeard get the best out of me.
Yeah.
But what's I gonna say?
We'll have a secret corner after this.
It's a different world. Wrestling's a different world.
It is a different world. You get it, but it's true. Look at us. You're right. It's conflicting because you do admire him for what he's accomplished. Yeah. But at the same time, you're repulsed by what he does.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's strange.
You could admire him for what he's done, but you're repulsed by what you don't know
what he's done.
You don't know what he's done, but you know it's horrible, and you know that there's so much more behind the veil. It's such an obvious. He's such an interesting character to me.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
To everyone,
it's the character, him as a person versus. That's why I mean, we love what he did, but we're disgusted by what he did. But we love the character of Vince McMahon. We love the character.
Mr. McMahon.
No, Vince McMahon.
Yeah, the villain.
McMahon.
No, we love
the wrestling villain.
No, both of them. I love him as a
they're both interesting.
Yeah, him who built the WWF from where it was to where it is today. Like, he is a pivotal part of that, regardless of how much he's actually contributed.
The reason for what it is today.
No, he is. But what I'm saying is like you were saying before, it's like Stone Cold and Rock and Triple H. They literally saved the WWF from dissolution. I think if it wasn't for them. Like, of course, you had the Hogans and so forth, old time, I 100% still give it to them. But when wrestling was going through its toughest stage, that Attitude Era literally saved the WWF because it was a battle of attrition because with WCW
wrestling,
what they tend to do is, and I do admire this, when the times change, they change with it. They never they never started the whole. The boobs and the attitude. It
was clean. Like we were saying in the beginning, it was like the golden era with Hulk Hogan and everything. It was very clean. And
they did the start.
You're right. Look, at the end of the day, the secret sauce to all of this, regardless if it was Stone Cold and all these extra pieces, is Vince.
But no,
if there was no Vince with Undertaker, if there was no Vince with Bret Hart, if there was no Vince with Hulk Hogan, if there was no Vince in any of those formulas, we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't have this documentary about this insanely huge company.
And the more insane thing about this is that Vince has not only infiltrated the wrestling world, he's infiltrated entertainment, movies, video games. I'm not talking about
politics.
I'm not talking about the video games that the WWE video games. I'm talking about all their video games too. They're in Call of Duty. They're in other games. It's infiltrated so much. Just not just wrestling.
And I think just the political aspect is insane. When you think about it.
Really insane. Only thing I want to correct Ed, what he said was I disagree with. Is
disagree?
That no, I think the WWF did create the titties and everything else. They changed with the times, but the WCW.
That's why I'm saying that. That's why I'm saying that because. In the golden era, it was all about say your prayers, take your vitamins, stuff like that, and how TV was. But when TV started to become edgy, when movies started to become edgy, WWE or WWF was still kind of that golden era.
They're trying to do good guys versus bad guys. Simple as that.
But because media started to get edgy, that's when they started to get edgy. When they saw WCW get edgy, ECW get edgy, they were still behind.
Okay, because when you said that, I was like, no, the Attitude Era, WCW, they did
it first.
They didn't do the titties like how Attitude Era.
No, they didn't do that, but they did it first. When
ECW did it before, but
ECW did it first.
No, ECW, yes.
WWE did it better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, but when he said WCW. ECW, did it first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no. WCW was
NWO. WCW, NWO.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they were just bad.
They were just
they weren't bad. No. I'm saying no. I'm talking about I don't count the ECW. ECW is kind of its own niche, right? I always count it.
People
they came from
that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is
he's discussing just WCW and WWE
because I think those are the only true. They're only true competitors.
Well, that was the most popular.
Yeah.
So ECW never competed with WWE. In their wildest dream, they could compete.
Yeah, that was like their top talent couldn't even really compare to like mid talent of the WCW.
But there was a time that WCW was beating WWF in the ratings for weeks.
No, WCW. That's what I'm saying.
The 38 weeks, or what they call it.
But what I'm trying
to
83. But 83 what I'm comparing is that WCW NWO was just attitude. They were just the bad guys. They were like, "Ooh, we're the anti-establishment."
But they didn't have like
WWF did. They copied off of WCW.
But they copied that part. But then WCW
DX. I mean, they copied off NWO and made DX.
No, he's agreeing with you, but WWE took the ball and fucking ran with it.
Yeah, they did. They had to.
WCW was in this lane right here. And this is where being edgy, but they didn't do nothing really with the women at that point. They were just saying like Hulk Hogan and Razor Ramon and blah, blah, blah. They were just doing the NWO thing. And that's kind of where they stopped. That's where they kind of peaked at.
They were doing the people with like fucking barbed wire chains on their face, like bleeding. Yeah. That was WWE. That wasn't WCW. The WCW were like, they were like mean and whatever.
Yeah.
But they didn't really push it to the extreme,
the sexualization,
mainstream, like
WWE. Now, I see what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I just want to make that clarification because, like WWE, they like Vince, like he didn't change. He was really opposed to change. That's why they were fucking up so bad. Yep. That's why they were doing so horribly because they still wanted to have the good guy versus the bad guy, and the time had changed. Now you need to blur the lines. That's where WCW did a lot better, but then. When Vince finally got on board, it took him almost to lose the WWE. Once that finally happened, he was like, fuck it. And I mean, he not just go in, he went all the way in. I forgot when, as a kid, I used to try to change the channel because there would be, chicks pretty much nude. And I'm like, I can't.
They had like pillow fights, bikini fights. There was wasn't there a championship based on the brand, panties or something, like a panty championship?
They had a butterfly belt at the time.
I don't remember about the panty.
Yeah, they would just randomly whip their tits out, and they would like just hide it with like the ropes. The rope would be covering their nipples. Yeah, as a kid, I was like, no, like hit the cameraman trip.
Yeah, I'll be like trying to look and be like, maybe if I look from down here, I can see. It. Like, I was so stupid.
I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they. And there's actual people in the crowd flashing too at the time. It wasn't the wrestlers, the female wrestlers doing it. It was the crowd. The people in the crowd. And apparently, I didn't know this was a thing. When they started shooting live, this is why they had to stop at certain points because people were flashing so much. Women were flashing so much live that they couldn't block it, and it would just be like, what? Like you would just have nudity on there, and they couldn't have that obviously. That's how to be alive. Yeah, you missed out a lot, Dark Side. You missed out on a lot.
Yeah, it was.
Not really. The internet has all that, so don't worry about it.
It's different than living it and then just seeing it from a screen.
That's right.
12-year-old you wouldn't have that same attitude. 12-year-old you would be like, shut the fuck up. I want to see some tits. Like, that's exactly how it would be.
Yeah, you would have been just alongside of us, just waiting for those sable titties to pop out.
Yeah,
that was not better. That was that got the most views during the segments than any other.
I was actually doing more numbers than the rest.
Yeah,
I was doing the same thing. You guys were looking at the Blrd channel, channel 187 that was all blurred up, and be like, "No, I see it right there. Squint your eyes, tilt your head to the left. That's a boob.
I think I see a nipple. I think that's a nipple.
No, that's a pie plate. Never mind.
Yeah, that's just that. But you use your memory, and man, great times. All right, so have we all?
All right, so we'll give it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Really good.
Yeah, really good.
Oh, all right. What do you give it?
Was it just me?
So we can close this out.
I think
come on, hurry up.
All right, so I have actually seen other documentaries which have been very well done. This is pretty good too. I would give this a 9 out of 10 blurries. So,
okay, so good. Like I said, we'll give it a 9 out of 10 blurries. All right.
Prophetic. How did you know that we were gonna do that? That's crazy. This was excellent, really well done. So,
very well done. And we will never see this again.
Yeah, we will never watch this.
This
again.
was
season 2.
This will never happen again. No. In the sense that, no. I'm sorry. I should say we will never see this again in the sense that you won't see Vince doing another one of these things. I would be shocked if he does another one of these things.
The way like, he walked out.
This was the one shot.
Yeah, they say he stopped doing the documentary.
Yeah, he stopped showing up. He was supposed to do more episodes, I think.
Well, I don't know. I'll say interviews, I think. I'll say this: as Vince McMahon has done so many times, what we thought he would never do. We'll see.
You're right.
He's not gonna come out of the fiery thing.
No. We never thought we'll see Bret Hart at a WWE ring again. We never thought we'd see Ultimate Warrior at a WWE ring again.
Just a little bit different from accusations.
Yeah, but still, CM Punk. Never thought we'd see him again.
Ed is a 100% fan here.
Yeah,
he's not distinguishing the harsh, disgusting reality from the spectacle.
I'm just saying, Vince McMahon's pockets may be getting low. He might do his best for business. Maybe make his own documentary. I don't know.
Vince McMahon's pockets is getting low.
Well off. He's very well off.
He doesn't own WWE anymore. I don't know.
Do you realize that he sold the shares? When he sold the shares, the shares were worth $2 billion at the time.
Yeah. And this was at the time when they acquired UFC, right? KO or not acquired, but
UFC acquired WWE.
Billionaire.
Yeah. But they joined, but the value of that has got to, he's
but
very
he doesn't own any of that anymore.
Just like Creamcast said, the fans don't care. Just numbers keep going up.
Exactly. Vince doesn't care. Maybe he might do his own thing. I mean, think about it like this. He came out and said something about this doc, like, they don't do a great portrayal of me. Maybe he'll do his own thing.
I will tell you this.
Hold on. There were talks that he was going to do his own promotion, his own wrestling thing again.
He probably will, yeah. He's got the money and the knowledge to do it.
Who knows? We might see him again.
And the connections.
If he does, I will absolutely go to that. I would go to that.
Why just go to the thing that he built?
I would go to that. I would go to the P. Diddy reunion concert.
All right.
Chris Brown.
Go ahead and take us out.
Can't stop. Won't stop.
Can't stop. Won't stop.
Hey, go ahead.
Well,
do you mean take us out?
Take us out, Creamcast.
Yeah, I'll take us out.
All
right, everybody. That has been episode 140 of the Blrd Podcast. As always, you can see us live on twitch.tv/the Blrd Podcast, and also watch all of our podcasts on youtube.com/the Blrd Podcast. Please stay with us as we go over the extra of us just going over the news and the bullshit of the past week. Until next time. Blur you later.
Blur you later.
What kind of promo was that?